Hello, everyone. My name is Shane Feldman. This is my sign name, an S on the chin, and I am the CEO for Innivee Strategies. We are here today for our monthly Lead Different webinar series, where I focus on a new leader every month. I get curious about them as a person, their leadership journey, some of the opportunities and challenges they've faced, and some of the things that they've learned through leadership. This webinar series is sponsored by Interpreter Now, and we are very grateful to them for providing interpreters and captioning to make sure it's fully accessible. We appreciate you, Interpreter Now. Our guest for today is Hernán Guillermo, and he is the president for UNSM in Mexico, and he has been for the last 4 years. Hello, Hernán.
Hi, Shane. I'm so happy to see you again.
Me too.
My name is Hernán Guillermo. My sign name is the letter H with a wiggle of the index and middle fingers. I'm from Mexico City. That's where I was born, and since then have moved around. I currently live in Toluca, where Shane recently visited me. It was a pleasure and a great visit. I'm the current president of the Unión Nacional de Sordos de México. The sign for it is a U to an S to a 5. This is my last year, 2026. Thank you for having me on as a guest, Shane.
So I've been to Mexico 2 times to support Hernán and his organization, UNSM. The first time was in Guadalajara, and the second time, just recently, was in Toluca. And while I was there, I was really impressed by his leadership. In Mexico, there is a variety of cultures within that community, but it feels like they've all come together to support him in his presidency. And today I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to him and learn from him about his personal leadership journey. Hernán, would you mind telling me just a little bit about your background in leadership and how you arrived in the role you're in today, leading your community?
Sure. I'm deaf myself. I was raised by deaf parents, and my older sister, too, is deaf. I've seen so many things throughout my deaf journey, things like difficulties and barriers. I've also learned a lot along the way, and I've been involved with both the deaf community and with the hearing community. From a young age, I've always been motivated to work within the deaf community and have done so. I remember in 2005 when LSM, Mexican Sign Language, was officially recognized as a national language, I was involved and used the internet or social media to put out vlogs telling everybody what was going on, discussing the needs of the deaf community and the importance of LSM's national recognition. I was also the secretary at FEMESOR, which is the first deaf association here in Mexico. I was there for about a year and a half. It was a good experience. Then I was invited to become vice president of the UNSM. Being there was an eye-opener and very motivating. The work was with the deaf community at the national level, meaning all 32 states. And sure, some areas were more involved than others, but wow, the people I met, the needs, the work to be done was plentiful. I loved being involved, and that's pretty much my background. I was also a high school teacher for the deaf. I love teaching. Education and leadership, both, are a big part of my background and what I've been doing for a while now.
That is an amazing journey. Wow. You're a teacher and you teach leadership in the classroom, plus you're a volunteer leader yourself. That's amazing.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
So I wanted to ask you, when you became president, the eyes of Mexico were on you. They were looking for you to lead. What did you learn personally from your role? Whereas before you have made some assumptions or had a picture of what leadership might have looked like, and then when you started, you realized that things were actually different and that some of the assumptions you made in the past needed to be adjusted. If so, what were some of those?
I wasn't expecting to be a leader or the president. I just wanted to be involved because of my deaf identity. And in the world of deaf culture, we're all equals. Some of the folks looked to me for leadership, which was fine, and they invited me to be the vice president. I found it interesting, exciting, and very fulfilling. I mean, I felt like I was needed and I formed working relationships. Then I became the president through an election process. But at that point, it became challenging because being in a leadership role is incredibly tough. Everyone has different experiences and perspectives. We were working with different states, so many different educational levels, different socioeconomic levels. I learned so much. I feel privileged and I'm grateful to the deaf community who allowed me to take on the leadership role of president. I deeply appreciate these last 4 years as a beautiful journey, along with some really tough parts. But it was still such an amazing experience. I just want to thank the deaf community for it all.
Awesome. Clearly, you entered the role, were thrown off balance a little bit, and had to adjust, which meant that it wasn't just what you brought with you that made you a leader, but there were other things that you had to include as part of your leadership. So, how did things become part of your leadership? What did that look like?
When I became a leader, I took on more responsibility, and it wasn't about my needs, but it was the community needs, mostly covering employment rights, access to interpreters, access to education, and human rights. It was a wide scope to cover. I learned a lot. I had to go to different meetings. I had to attend many video meetings as well. It was a big responsibility, and I had to be flexible. I had to see their opinions. It wasn't about holding on to my own opinions. I had to really learn what was going on from their perspective. I had to, quote, step into their shoes, end quote. For example, my situation may have been fine where I had a sense of agency, but for some of the others, maybe they had hearing parents and had not yet used interpreters. So they had a long way to go. I also had to learn international sign, regional signs, not just from Mexico. I was working with people from other countries, with the World Federation of the Deaf. It was important for planning workshops and programs. We didn't just get together to video chat and hang out like friends. It was very involved. We were accountable and very motivated. It was a huge factor, just constantly learning. I loved it.
What a powerful comment. Thank you for explaining your personal journey and figuring things out, but really involving and connecting with your community and placing them in roles to support you.
Right.
My question for you, I'm wondering, is do you have an example of a situation where you were moving along as a leader, the president of this organization, and then you realized that while many people liked and supported you, you were also confronted with a difficult, challenging situation, and you had to balance how to keep those people's support while at the same time making a decision that you knew would upset some of them? Can you give me an example of that and how you personally navigated that situation?
Right. I think first and foremost, it's about empowerment, about making sure that people have the opportunity to go through the process. Not just me making decisions, thinking I have the best theories and solutions. It's really about empowering others to go through the process and allowing them to understand that I only represent them, but they can lead the planning because not everyone is in the same situation or in the same city. There's diverse people, thus a variety of differences. I think I've learned in terms of balance, there may be a group, for example, with a need and another without that need. So each group needs to take ownership and lead their process. For example, with interpreting, there's some folks that say we need certified interpreters. They think it's just right and the standard. Some people disagree with this. because they've seen true professionals. And then they've seen others who study only to get certification, but aren't engaging with the deaf community. So there's that fine line, and there's definitely a split. I don't think there's one single way to do it. Things have to really fit the communities they are working in. Another thing is the idea of doing the work in isolation or on our own to make progress. But that leaves out empowering people, learning about their needs. Dialogue allows us to learn about their wants and to their empowerment. Hosting planning and discovery workshops with presentations and always honoring the community vote. It is also important to, to volunteer and not to wait until things are resolved. Instead, taking the opportunity at that moment, and that takes patience. Through this process, one can learn a lot, I think.
Wow. Both examples you gave sound really challenging, where I have a variety of different perspectives and I have to navigate that terrain. But empowerment is an important word that you used again and again. You need to show the people that you need them and ask them what their needs are and show them how they can be a part of the solution. That's a really important part of the leadership journey. I wanted to ask you, in your role as president, what would you say is or are the top or most important things that you learned during that time? The things that you feel are really important so that for our younger leaders who are watching, it's the thing that you'll pass on to them that's really important about leadership. What would you share with them?
Again, I think the most important thing is empowerment, really giving back. What I know, and from what I've learned in my experience, is you always have to think about empowering other people and really inspiring them and allowing them to learn for themselves. I like the quote, you give a man a fish and he eats for a day, but you teach him how to fish and he eats for a lifetime. As a president, I have to inspire people to do things for themselves. They may disagree, which is fine, and some will, but there are also rules and respect in place. Also, you can't be too flexible. We have to work within a system and be accountable and hold ourselves to the commitments we've made. For the deaf community, it's important. This is our identity, our language, our education, our human rights. So much is encompassed, but empowerment is number one.
Wow, definitely. I'm sure our younger people watching must be touched by the idea that if they are empowered, they'll be in the place to empower other people too. That seems to be your example. Thank you.
Right.
When I was there in Mexico, I noticed that you worked across a wide spectrum of folks. You interacted with people who were deaf, but poor, and had very few resources. And at the other end of the spectrum, there were hearing people who were in high positions in government. You worked with them too, and yet I saw the same level of connection and conversation across the spectrum. Why is that important for you as a leader? Why should a leader do that, be able to work across the spectrum? For those leaders out there who are watching your example.
Why? Well, I think in terms of the deaf community, we're all similar. We all have human rights. We need to provide what is needed. Like one time, for example, employment. There was a time we took on the responsibility of meeting to find appropriate available work, like accessible, inclusive employment. Another time, we were looking at human rights as the focus, or for folks with family problems, or working with people who have problems at work and are seeking solutions. There were so many situations that we were looking at, like mental health and counseling. That is a huge and critical area. It can't be neglected. There's so many areas to cover. For example, some people don't know Spanish. They don't know how to read or write. So you have to find the folks who can share their knowledge with them. There's no cookie cutter solution. It's not so cut and dry. There's so many different contexts, so many different areas to serve. And as a president, we have to provide attention to them all. Some of the groups believe in just having presentations, but there's more to it, a wider scope. And really, that's the motivation. It's beautiful. I think it's important for a president to be available, accountable, and to delegate and empower people so they can do the work too. And I know there's board members, and yeah, they were doing a lot of the work as well. And as a president, of course, you're still learning so much through it all. No one is perfect. We're always learning.
Oh, yes. I also noticed this idea of networking and resourcing with folks who are higher up who can support you in realizing your goal, and that building relationships with them was important too. Is it important that leaders build connections with members of their community and also the people who are hearing in government? Do you notice that?
Yes, it's important to be involved. There is an institution for people with disabilities here. They provide events, awareness events. They have a yearly conference. They've provided books on ethics for interpreters. One of their events is a week in September, where they follow the World Federation of the Deaf. They do Spanish literacy, sign language literacy, and create connections. It's an institute, but not really connected to the government. So they have to create a coalition, encouraging employment from businesses. The deaf community can't exist on an island. So connections to hearing agencies have to be forged, including connections in government too, including business to support the work is really important too.
I see how important it is to have connections with both of those groups, and they support each other too. I'm wondering, and this is my last question for you, and I think it's a really important question. Many of the leaders that I work with out there who are watching us today, they say that their biggest challenge is volunteer leadership. Because volunteer leadership asks a lot of people, their time, their willingness, everything that they have to offer to the work. And they've told me that it's a challenge getting people to take on volunteer leadership roles who are motivated in investment. Your level of investment is wonderful. I think many of the people out there see you and want the same for their organization. So, what's your advice for them on how to get the community to bring out volunteer leaders, just like your example? What can we learn from you about that?
Yes, this is true. When I became president as a volunteer, it wasn't easy work. There's so much responsibility. And if one fails or we don't follow through, then we can be perceived as worthless or as someone who is unable to solve problems. So, one of the most important things to keep in mind is one's schedule, one's availability, and to make time available to prepare ahead of time. Like I had just said, it's important to have that network ready. It's critical when information sharing needs to happen. This doesn't mean we always solve problems, but it does mean, as volunteers, we are committed and passionate. This work is not about having chats, fun, and parties, not at all. When folks are facing barriers and difficulties, that is the time to call on the network and get the information flowing and make the best possible use of one's time. Also, don't expect to always be reimbursed. Sometimes, as volunteers, we have to pay our own way. We are giving our time, commitment, and respect. Respect is important, it's a part of the role. Also, not losing your temper or losing patience, being willing to see others' perspectives. One needs to have empathy. It's critical for this role. For those who may want to become president and step into leadership, it takes learning. There are frustrations. It is a learning process. And always ask for help from other experts or experienced people. Invite them to the table. Learning together is a joy. We can't single handedly know everything. You also can't learn everything from the internet. Some learning requires authentic people coming together to interact. It creates a beautifully rich experience. My last 4 years have been an absolute joy and learning from my experiences. And come October, I'm still going to attend and help facilitate. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm deaf. I'm proud of myself and all of you community members that aim to become leaders. Good leaders, proud Mexicans. With the only thing we can't do is hear. But you can become smart and you can become successful. Just believe in yourself. You have the power.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hernan. I appreciate you and congratulations on all your success over these last 4 years as president of UNSM. It's been a pleasure having you here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
This month's leaders are called Lead Different, and we've had a fantastic guest today. Thank you again, Hernan. And also, I want to recognize and thank Interpreter Now for the interpreters and captioning support for this series over the past few months. I appreciate all of you. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to being with you again next month with a new guest. Thank you.
Muchas gracias y viva México. Gusto de conocerlos. Saludos y ánimo. Nos veremos pronto. Adiós.
I love that, the support between the United States and Mexico.
Hugs to all. Tengan buen fin de semana. Adiós.